Okay, there we go. I think I have it now. Sometimes this just doesn't remember. So here we are with the text 15. Do you see it?
There, it just popped. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's start out, I guess. Text 15. Mamopetya punarjanma dukkhalayam shashvatam. This is the dukkhalayam shashvatam verse. This is the one where Lord Krishna says this material world certifies it as temporary and miserable. Mamopetya punarjanma dukkhalayam shashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. Synonyms: mam, unto me, apeti, achieving, puna, again, janma, birth, dukkhalayam, place of miseries, ashashvatam, temporary, na, never, apnuvanti, attain, mahatmana, the great soul, samsiddhim, perfection, paramam, ultimate, gata, achieved. Translation: after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. Purport: since this temporary material world is full of the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death, naturally he who achieves the highest perfection and attains the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, does not wish to return. The supreme planet is described in the Vedic literature as beyond our material vision, and it is considered the highest goal. The Mahatmas, the great souls, receive transcendental messages from the realized devotees and thus gradually develop devotional service in Krishna consciousness and become so absorbed in transcendental service that they no longer desire elevation to any of the material planets, nor do they even want to be transferred to any spiritual planet. They only want Krishna's association and nothing else. Such great souls in Krishna consciousness attain the highest perfection of life. In other words, they're the supreme souls. So I just remember, not Yamas Das Brahmachari, the former Shelter Band member, he's this comedy bit, and he was saying in 2016, when the presidential race was going on, he was saying sometimes, devotees think, I want to make this world a better place, and, they think to make a world a better place, I think I'll vote for Bernie. And he says, but no. This material world, Krishna is certified dukkhalayam shashvatam, temporary and miserable. And so he said to make it a better place by that kind of means is like trying to put up one of those pine tree air fresheners in hell, because it's not going to work, So you can read the next verse.
Text 16. Abrahma bhuvano loko punar avartino arjuna mamu petretu kunteya punar janma na vidyate. Synonyms: Brahma, up to the Brahma Loka planet, Bhuvanat, from the planetary systems, Loka, planets, Puna, again, Avartina, returning, Arjuna, O Arjuna, Mam, unto me, Upetya, arriving, to but, Kuntiya, O son of Kunti, Puna Janma, rebirth, Na, never, Vidyate, takes to. Translation: from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Purport: all kinds of yogis, karma, dhyana, hatha, etc., eventually have to attain devotional perfection in bhakti yoga or Krishna consciousness before they can go to Krishna's transcendental abode and never return. Those who attain the highest material planets or the planets of the demigods are again subjected to repeated birth and death. As persons on earth are elevated to higher planets, people in higher planets such as Brahmaloka, Chandraloka, and Indraloka fall down to earth. The practice of sacrifice called Panchagni Vidya, recommended in the Katha Upanishad, enables one to achieve Brahmaloka. But if in Brahmaloka one does not cultivate Krishna consciousness, then he must return to earth. Those who progress in Krishna consciousness in the higher planets are gradually elevated to higher and higher planets, and at the time of universal devastation are transferred to the eternal spiritual kingdom. When there is devastation of this material universe, Brahma and his devotees who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness are all transferred to the spiritual universe and to specific spiritual planets according to their desires.
That's after 311 trillion years, I think. Or maybe it's just a partial devastation. I think all the material planets, but he's talking about Brahma himself going back. So that's a totally devastation. And Brahma lives for 311 trillion years with a T. Text 17. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Ahar Yad Brahmano Vidu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojana. Synonyms: Sahasra, thousands; Yuga, millenniums; Paryantam, including Aha, day; Tat, or Yat, that; Brahmana, of Brahma; Vidu, know it; Ratrim, night; Yuga, millennium; Sahasrantam, similarly at the end of 1000; Te, that; Aha, Ratra, day and night; Vida, understand; Jana, people. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together is the duration of Brahma's one day. And such also is the duration of his night. Purport. The duration of the material universe is limited. It is manifested in its cycles of kalpas. The kalpa is a day of Brahma, and one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas or ages, Satya, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali. The cycle of Satya is characterized by virtue, wisdom, and religion, and there is practically no ignorance and vice. And that yuga lasts for 1,728,000 years. In the Treta Yuga, vice is introduced, and this yuga lasts for 1,296,000 years. In the Dvapara Yuga, there is an even greater decline in virtue and religion, vice increasing, and this yuga lasts for 864,000 years. These are all like quarters, I think. Yeah, they're quarters. And finally, in Kali Yuga, the yuga we've been experiencing now for the past 5,000 years, there's an abundance of strife, ignorance, real religion, and vice, true virtue being practically non-existent, and this yuga lasts for 432,000 years. In Kali Yuga, vice increases to such a point that at the termination of the yuga, the Supreme Lord himself appears as the Kalki avatar, vanquishes the demons, saves his devotees, and commences another Satyuga. I heard those dudes, like the people that will start the age, they're living somewhere in some cave. They'll be there for they're living somewhere, and they'll start another, when after Kalki annihilates everyone, they'll start another Satyuga in another 27,000 years, because you got a minus 5,000. Yeah. Then the process is set rolling again. Then these 4 yugas rotating in 1,000 times. God, that's so long. Comprise one day of Brahma, the creator God, and the same number comprise one night. Brahma lives for 100 of such, quote, years, end quote, and then dies. These 100 years by Earth calculations total 311 trillion 40 million Earth years. By these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable, but from the point of eternity, it's as brief as a lightning flash. In the causal ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux. In the material universe, not even Brahma is free from the process of birth, old age, disease, and death. Brahma, however, is directly engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord in the management of this universe. Therefore, he is at once attains liberation. Elevated sannyasis are promoted to Brahma's particular planet, Brahmaloka, which is the highest planet in the material universe and which survives all the heavenly planets in the upper strata of the planetary system. But in due course, Brahma and all inhabitants of Brahmaloka are subject to death according to the law of material nature. Time scale is just incredibly astounding. That's why, what's his name? Henry David Thoreau said, in the morning, I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad-gītā. Stupendous. The time scales are stupendous. Go ahead.
Text 18. Vyaktad Vyaktaya Sarva Prabhavanti Ahar Agame Ratri Agame Praliyante Tatraiva Vyakta Samjnake. Synonyms. Avyakta, from the unmanifest. Vyaktaya, living entities. Sarva, all. Prabhavanti, come into being. Aha Agame, at the beginning of the day. Ratri Agame, at the fall of night. Praliyante, are annihilated. Tatra, there. Eva, certainly. Avyakta, the unmanifest. Samjnake,
I think it's called Gyake, just like Yaga, like JN is pronounced Gya, like Samyake.
Samyake, thank you. Samyake, called. Translation. When Brahma's day is manifest, the multitude of living entities come into being, and at the arrival of Brahma's night, they are all annihilated. The less intelligent jivas try to remain within this material world and are accordingly elevated and degraded in the various planetary systems. During the daytime of Brahma, they exhibit their activities, and at the coming of Brahma's night, they are annihilated. In the day, they receive various bodies for material activities, and at night, these bodies perish. The jivas, individual souls, remain compact in the body of Vishnu and again are manifest at the arrival of Brahma's day. When Brahma's life is finally finished, they are all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions of years. Finally, when Brahma is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, the jivas are captivated by the material world. However, those intelligent beings who take to Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna, Hare Rama in devotional service transfer themselves, even in this life, to the spiritual planet of Krishna and become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirths. So, I mean, there's all those ages cycling through for Brahma's day. So, but here it seems to be saying that during Brahma's night, everything's unmanifested. So that's
that's a partial annihilation. That's where all the living entities, except for the upper planetary systems, are destroyed after 400 million years or something like that, which kind of corresponds to the cosmological predictions of the scientists. You know, the creation and destruction are kind of like in cycles, but that's just a partial annihilation. It's not the complete universal annihilation with where the higher planets, including Lord Brahma's planet, is destroyed. Just
so
like
a period of time then where there would be nothing manifest in the material world, like during what would be Brahma's night, for that length of time, there's nothing manifest then?
No, well, actually, I don't know. That's a good question. I know there's like at a certain point the whole world fills up with water.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure though. I'd have to do some research about that or ask somebody, because I think there's like a fire and then everything is filled with water, and then all the living entities are gone, but except for the like higher planetary systems. But I'd have to check that out in the fifth canto. But these are really long periods of time. 1 millennium, or it says Brahma's life. Brahma's born in another millennium, and so he's talking about like, Narada Muni. Narada Muni actually, when he was a son of a maidservant, he was born in another millennium, and then when that millennium was finished, he took birth as a son of Brahma and became Narada Muni because of his association with the saintly persons. So Narada Muni's old in this lifetime, but he existed 300 trillion years ago too, in another millennium. Maybe it wasn't that long ago. I think this particular manifestation is like 150 trillion years old. And it's been, there's the days and the nights have been manifesting, living entities again and again. It says that they're created in they exhibit their activities in the daytime, and then at the coming of night, they're annihilated.
It makes
So I
it
believe
seem
that's
makes
has
it
to
sound
do
like
with,
that, like the time, like the the equivalent of the day, the same as the night, that there would be nothing manifest.
yeah, probably. I mean, like there's nothing for like 4 billion years, 4,300,000,000 years, and living entities are sleeping. You know,
Except for those in the, but those in the spiritual kingdom would just be, just
yeah,
cognizant.
the ones in the higher heavenly planets like Brahma, it's just his night for him. It's just 12 hours. But for the rest of it, it's 4 billion years, or one day, and the same is his night. So yeah, that's all in the fifth canto, all those details, like what happens and how the planets are destroyed. Ultimately, everything is wrapped up and it all goes back into Narayan. In the original, everything comes from Narayan, everything enters into him at the time of universal annihilation. Even Brahma is but he's transferred to the spiritual world. Oops, let me shut this off here. It's a ringer. So you can read the next verse, I guess, unless you have any other questions. I really can't tell you what happens at nighttime, but everybody is obviously manifested. What that means is, I guess, that they're kind of in a sleeping condition, and then they're reawakened when they're manifest again. But the same thing happens in Narayan. Everybody goes into the body of Narayan, and they're kind of in a sleeping condition, and then when the material universes are manifest again, they regain their memories by Narayan's grace of what they were doing before, and then they start their activities again exactly as before. But it's all a prison house, and we just want to get out of here. That's the main thing. It's a miserable place, like Krishna said a few verses ago. Bhuta grama saevayam bhutva praliyate ratriyagamai vasra parta prabhavatya haragame. Bhuta grama, the aggregate of all living entities, they, eva, certainly, I am this, bhutva, taking birth, praliyate, annihilate, ratri, night, agame, on arrival, avasa, automatically, parta, o son of Prita, prabhavanti, manifest, aha, during daytime, agame, on arrival. Translation: again and again the day comes and this host of beings is active, and again the night falls, O Partha, and they're helplessly dissolved. Go ahead.
There's no purport for that.
There's a purport?
I don't know.
There's no purport. There's no purport.
Well, in the version of the book I have, there is one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Which version do you have?
Whatever we were using originally before you switched over. It's it has this cover. It's a newer version of it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, they must have. This is the original version of Prabhupada's original book in 1972, Bhagavad-gītā. You can read that if you want. You want to read the purport? Go ahead. It's good too. It's valid.
Purport.
Prabhupada just didn't include it in his book, his original book.
The less intelligent who try to remain within this material world may be elevated to higher planets, and then again must come down to this planet Earth. During the daytime of Brahma, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets within this material world. But at the coming of Brahma's night, they are all annihilated. In the day, they receive various bodies for material activities, and at night, they no longer have bodies, but remain compact in the body of Vishnu. Okay, so this is what we were talking about.
There you go. That answers your question.
Then again, they are manifest at the arrival of Brahma's day. Bhutva praliyate. During the day, they become manifest, and at night, they are annihilated again. Ultimately, when Brahma's life is finished, they are all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions and millions of years. And when Brahma is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, they are captivated by the spell of the material world. But those intelligent persons who take to Krishna consciousness use the human life fully in this devotional service of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus, they transfer themselves, even in this life, to the spiritual planet of Krishna and become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirths. Okay.
Yeah. I guess I'll read this one because short. Text 20. Paras tasmat tu bhavo nyo vyakto vyaktat sanatana yas sarveshu bhuteshu nasyatsu na vinasyati. Para, transcendental, tasmat, from that, too, but bhava, nature, anya, another, avyakta, unmanifest, avyaktat, from the unmanifest, sanatana, eternal, that, sa, which, sarveshu, all, bhuteshu, manifestation, nasyatsu, being annihilated, never, vinasyati, annihilated. Translation, yet there is another nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all of this world is annihilated, that part remains that it is. Purport. By Krishna's superior spiritual energy is transcendental and eternal, is beyond the changes of material nature, which is manifested and annihilated during the days and nights of Brahma. Krishna's superior energy is completely opposite in quality to material nature. Superior and inferior nature are explained in the 7th chapter. See how long this is? Not long.
Text 21. Avyakto kshara ite uktas tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadama paramam mama. Synonyms. Avyakta, unmanifested. Akshara, infallible. Iti, thus. Ukta, said. Tam, that which. Ahu, is known. Paramam, ultimate. Gatim, destination. Yam, that which. Prapya, gaining. Na, never. Nivartante, comes back. Tat Dhamma, that abode. Paramam, supreme. Mama, mine. When one goes there, he never comes back. That is my supreme abode. A translation. That supreme abode is called unmanifested and infallible, and it is the supreme destination. When one goes there, he never comes back. That is my supreme abode. Purport. The supreme abode of the personality of Godhead Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dhamma, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is full of places made of touchstone. There are also trees. What's that?
Full of palaces made of touchstone.
Oh, palaces made of touchstone. There are also trees which are called desire trees that supply any type of eatable upon demand. And there are cows known as Surabi cows, which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, and he is called Govinda, the primeval Lord and the cause of all causes. The Lord is accustomed to blow his flute, Vinam Kvanatalam. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like the lotus petals, and the color of his body like clouds. He is so attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his hair. In the Gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in the Brahma Samhita. Vedic literature states that there is nothing superior to the abode of the Supreme Godhead, and that abode is the ultimate destination. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth, Vrindavan, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Goloka Vrindavan, located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended on this earth, he sported on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavan in the district of Mathura, India.
Purusha sapara parta labhya abhaktya labhyas chavananyaya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Purusha, the Supreme Personality, he, Para, the Supreme, than whom no one is greater. Partho, son of Prita, Bhaktiya, by devotional service, Labhya can be achieved too, but Ananyaya, unalloyed, undeviating devotion, Yasya, his, Atastani, within Bhutani, all this material manifestation, Yena, by whom, Sarvam, all, Idam, whatever we can see, Tatam, distributed. Translation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is obtainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he's present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated in him. Report. Here, that means that they were talking about the 90 square mile land of Vrindavan. Actually, all the material and spiritual universes are within that tract of land because it is non-different from Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading and everything is situated within him. Report. Here it is clearly stated that the supreme destination from which there is no return is the abode of Krishna, the Supreme Person. The Brahma Samhita describes its supreme abode as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. Whatever variegatedness is manifest there is all the quality of spiritual bliss. There's nothing material. All variegatedness is expanded as the spiritual expansion of the Supreme Godhead himself. For the manifestation there is totally of the spiritual energy, as explained in the 7th chapter. As far as the material world is concerned, although the Lord is always in his supreme abode, he is nonetheless all-pervading by his material energy. So, by his spiritual and material energies, he is present everywhere, both in the material and in the spiritual universes. Yasyantastani means that everything is sustained by him, whether it be spiritual or material energy. It's clearly stated here that only by bhakti, or devotional service, can one enter into the Vaikuntha spiritual planetary system. In all the Vaikunthas, there is only one Supreme Godhead, Krishna, who has expanded himself into millions and millions of plenary expansions. These plenary expansions are four-armed, and they preside over innumerable spiritual planets. They're known by a variety of names: Purushottama, Trivikram, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Hrishikesh, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Sridhar, Vasudeva, Damodar, Janardana, Narayan, Vamana, Padmanabha, etc. These plenary expansions are likened unto the leaves of a tree, and the main tree is likened to Krishna. Krishna, dwelling in Goloka Vrindavan, his supreme abode, systematically conducts all the affairs of both universes, material and spiritual, without flaw, by power of his all-pervasiveness. How many texts in this chapter?
Uh, 28.
Oh, really? We're almost at the end. I was thinking we'd get through this maybe. Go on to the 9th chapter, which is most confidential knowledge.
Next, text 23. Yatra kale navirtam chayava yogina prayata yanti tam kalam akshyami bharatar shaba. Synonyms. Yatra, in that, kale, time, to, but, and avritim, no return, avritim, return, cha, also, eva, certainly, yogina, of different kinds of mystics, prayata, one who goes, yanti, departs, tam, that, kalam, time, akshyami, describing, bharatar shaba, O best of the Bharatas. Translation, O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, one does or does not come back. The unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Lord, who are totally surrendered souls, do not care when they leave their bodies or by what method. They leave everything in Krishna's hand, and so easily and happily return to Godhead. But those who are not unalloyed devotees and who depend instead on such methods of spiritual realizations as karma yoga, jnana yoga, hatha yoga, etc., must leave the body at a suitable time and thereby be assured whether or not they will return to the world of birth and death. If the yogi is perfect, he can select the time and place for leaving this material world. But if he is not so perfect, then he has to leave at nature's will. The most suitable time to leave the body and not return is being explained by the Lord in these verses. According to Acharya Baladev Vijabhusana, the Sanskrit word kala used herein refers to the presiding deity of time.
Yeah, just like Bhima or Bhishma, he left when the sun was traveling to the north. Of course, he was a devotee, he's a Madhajan, so he didn't really have to worry about it, but he had a benediction that he could leave his body whenever he wanted. Text 24, Agni Jyotiraha Shukla Sanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Paryata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vidojana. Synonyms: Agni, fire; Jyoti, light; Aha, day; Shukla, white; Sat, Masa, 6 months; Uttarayanam, when the sun passes on the northern side; Tatra, there; Paryata, one who goes; Gachanti, passes away; Brahma, the absolute; Brahma Vida, one who knows the absolute; Jana, person. Translation: those who know the Supreme Brahmana pass away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light at an auspicious moment during the fortnight of the moon in the 6 months where the sun travels in the north. Report: when fire, light, day, and moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them, there are presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the jiva sets forth on the path of a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange the time and place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But if not, then there's every possibility that they'll have to return. However, for the pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body in an auspicious or inauspicious moment by accident or by arrangement.
So maybe I'm misreading it, but it seems to be saying there that if you pass at a certain time, you can achieve the Brahma Jyoti. But then it also seems to be saying that if you pass at that certain time, you can go directly to the spiritual kingdom.
Well, I guess depends on your mentality too. I mean, some people like Jnani yogis, they're interested in merging into the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Karma yogis, different, but if there's a tinge of bhakti, then there's every, in your life, you have every possibility of going back to Godhead. But it's kind of a risky method, but if you're a pure devotee, you don't have to worry about it.
So it makes it seem like people like for half the year, people who pass have a chance to go up, and the second half of the year, you don't.
Yeah, well, I think this is mostly for like yogis and stuff, I mean, most people, just because it doesn't matter whatever you do, you're going to go back to Godhead 6 months out of the year. That doesn't make sense. You can eat like, you can eat like a hog, or you can eat like a tiger, and you'll take birth as a tiger. If you eat meat, or, if you commit sinful activities, you go to hell, so it just depends. I think these are basically for people who are, practicing some kind of yoga system.
Because even on the translation for this, it's it starts off with the mystic who passes away, not just like
not just like every Tom, Dick, and Haridas. The mystic.
But once again, but someone on the path of bhakti yoga, it's almost like separate from these other regulations or practices, like that bhakti yoga trumps any.
Yeah, well, you have to. You can also attain, the supreme destination by practicing any of these other things, like Jnana yoga or karma yoga, but it has to be tinged with bhakti.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be some kind of like a little bit of bhakti yoga in there. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Let me show you one thing. It's already past time here, but let me just show you a little bit of this kirtan. This is like they're taking the deities out after they bathe them,
Mm-hmm.
The Shama Sundar's leading, that's his daughter on the harmonium. Just went on from there.
It's beautiful.
I think his kirtan lasted, this whole clip here is about, yeah, it's over 2 hours long. I ran out of my battery and I ran out of the juice in my phone and the battery, the extra battery that I took along to charge the phone. So
That's
it was a pretty long program. It was like, it was supposed to start at 5 o'clock, you know, the bathing of the deities, the Abhishek was supposed to start at 5. But, you know, it was Indian Standard Time. You ever heard of Indian Standard Time? It's always an hour late, you know? So it actually started at like 6:15. And so it went pretty late, but, you know, everybody had a pretty nice Ekadasi feast afterwards. You know, they dressed the deities, they brought them back in. They had an artik, the Sundar artik, the evening artik that they chant for Lord Chaitanya all over the world. And then they had prasadam. It was you know, it was like a light prasadam, like an Ekadasi prasad, because it was an all-day fast. But it was pretty ecstatic, I have to say. He really went all, you know, so much preparation went into that, you know, like printing out all the procedures for, you know, what exactly to do in what order, you know, it was amazing. Anyway, thank you very much. I have a
Thank
nice
you.
weekend.
You as well. See you on Monday.
Yeah, talk to you on Monday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.